You can't just show up and start digging. This land belongs to the HOA now. The shout echoed across the quiet dirt road of Pine Ridge Estates. Birds scattered from the oak trees as Deborah Whitfield, the self-proclaimed HOA president, stormed toward the old cabin at the end of the lane. Standing in her way was Ethan Walker, broad-shouldered, quiet, wearing a dusty denim jacket and work gloves. Behind him, a rusted pickup and a wooden sign still read, "Walker Family Land, Established." 1978, Debbie's voice dripped with entitlement. "We have rules, mister. You can't just come back after 10 years and act like you own this place." Ethan's eyes stayed calm. "That's funny," he said softly, "because my name's still on the deed." Her smirk twisted. "Oh, really? Then let's see what our officer has to say about that." A man in a fake-looking police uniform stepped from her car, badge glinting under the sun, but something about it was off. Ethan sighed, reached for his phone, and said evenly, "Let's find out what the real sheriff thinks about your officer." "Where are you watching from? Drop your city in the comments, and if you believe in justice, hit like and subscribe." The gravel crunched under Ethan Walker's boots as he stepped out of his pickup for the first time in 10 years. The air smelled of pine, rain, and memory. His father's land, 5 acres of stubborn soil and stories, stretched out before him. The same oak tree still leaned over the old gate, the one his dad carved, "Walker Family Land, Estant, 1978, into when Ethan was just 12. For a long moment, he stood still. Coming back here wasn't about nostalgia. It was about closure. His father had passed while Ethan was serving overseas. The war changed him. The world moved on without him. But this land, this was home. He took a deep breath and got to work. Brushed away overgrown weeds, checked the well, unpacked lumber. With every hammer strike, the place felt more alive again, until the sound of heels crunching gravel broke the peace. "Excuse me," a sharp voice called. "Who gave you permission to do construction here?" Ethan turned. A woman in designer sunglasses, clutching a clipboard like a sword, stood at his fence. Behind her, a pristine SUV idled. Pine Ridge HOA stenciled across the door. She didn't introduce herself before demanding, "Name, address, authorization letter?" Ethan wiped sweat from his brow. "It's Ethan Walker. I own this property." Her lips pursed. "Not possible. This area was annexed into Pine Ridge Estates last year. You'll need HOA approval to make changes." He chuckled softly. "This land's been private since my grandfather's time. Not for sale. Not under anyone's control but mine." Her jaw tightened. "We'll see about that." When she turned and walked away, Ethan noticed the license plate frame on her SUV. President, Pine Ridge HOA. He didn't know it yet, but Deborah Whitfield had spent the last decade controlling every inch of this neighborhood, bullying anyone who dared defy her rules. To her, Ethan wasn't a homeowner. He was a challenge, one she couldn't afford to lose. And to him, she was a test of patience, principle, and how far a man could go before silence turned into action. The next morning, Ethan found a bright orange envelope taped to his gate. Notice of violation, unauthorized occupancy. It wasn't from the county. It was from Pine Ridge HOA. He exhaled, half amused, half irritated. She's quick, he thought. Deborah Whitfield's SUV appeared again an hour later. This time she brought company. Two men in polo shirts with clipboards and walkie-talkies. The self-appointed Compliance Committee. "Good morning, Mr. Walker," Debbie said in a tone that dripped with fake politeness. "You're trespassing on managed community property. I need to see your registration." Ethan leaned on his shovel. "This isn't community land." "Check the county lines. You'll see, One of the men spoke up nervously. "Ma'am, this isn't even on the HOA map." She silenced him with a glare sharp enough to cut. "Don't question my process, Carl." Then, turning back to Ethan, "We're a registered association. Our rules apply to everyone inside the perimeter." He smiled slightly. "That's the thing about boundaries, ma'am. They only work when they're real." Her composure cracked. "Don't get smart with me. You'll find out quickly we can make your life here very difficult." Ethan's calm unnerved her. People usually flinched when she raised her voice. He didn't. He just stood there, quiet, firm, unshaken. She looked around, noticing a few neighbors peeking through their curtains. She needed to reassert dominance. "I'll have security handle this," she snapped, marching back toward her SUV. Ethan called out, "Security?" Or someone pretending to be. She froze for half a second before driving off, tires crunching gravel like warning shots. As her taillights vanished down the road, Ethan's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number read, "Leave the property before things get ugly. HOA protocol." He smirked. "Nice try," he muttered. The camera he'd installed on the gate quietly blinked red, recording everything. He didn't know when she'd be back, but something told him the next visit wouldn't be polite, and he'd be ready. 2 days later, Ethan heard the sound of tires on gravel again, but this time there was more than one vehicle. He stepped onto his porch just as a silver SUV and an unmarked sedan pulled up. Out stepped Deborah Whitfield, crisp and smug as ever in her sunglasses, and beside her, a tall man in a black uniform. His badge caught the sunlight, shiny but unfamiliar. Debbie's voice carried that rehearsed authority she loved to use. "Mr. Walker," she called out, "this is Officer Daniels." "He's here to remove you from HOA property." Ethan crossed his arms, expression calm but unreadable. "Is that right?" The man straightened. "Sir, you're trespassing on private association land." "You'll need to pack up and leave immediately." Ethan raised an eyebrow. "Private association land? Or my family's deeded acreage that predates your HOA by 40 years? The officer hesitated. His uniform looked right, but something was off. The patch on his sleeve said Pine Ridge Security Services, not County Sheriff. His badge wasn't engraved. It was printed. Debbie noticed Ethan's eyes narrowing. "Don't make this harder than it has to be," she snapped. "We have full authority here." Ethan's tone stayed low and steady. "Authority, huh? Mind if I call the sheriff's office and double-check that?" The man's hand twitched toward his belt. "That won't be necessary." "Oh, I think it will," Ethan replied, pulling out his phone. Debbie's face turned red. "You people and your phones, always trying to make a scene." Ethan smiled faintly. "No scene, ma'am." "Just facts." He dialed the local sheriff's department on speaker. "Hi, this is Ethan Walker out at County Road 18. I've got a man here claiming to be law enforcement. Can you confirm a badge number for an Officer Daniels with Pine Ridge?" There was a pause, then a calm voice from dispatch. "Sir, that's not one of ours." "Please stay on the line." Debbie's face drained of color. The officer stepped back. Ethan's camera blinked red again. recording every word. He took a slow breath, his voice calm but final. "I told you once, Ms. Whitfield. This land doesn't belong to you." 5 minutes after Ethan ended the call, the low hum of a county cruiser drifted up the road. Dust curled through the sunlight as the real sheriff's vehicle pulled to a stop beside Debbie's SUV. Deputy Harris, a broad, calm man with mirrored sunglasses, stepped out, resting one hand on his belt. "Afternoon, folks." "Got a call about an impersonator," Debbie's voice shot out first. "Deputy, thank goodness you're here. This man is trespassing on HOA land." Harris glanced at Ethan. "You Ethan Walker?" Ethan nodded. "Yes, sir. This is my father's property. Deeds in the county record. She brought this man," he gestured at the uniformed stranger, "claiming to be law enforcement." Harris turned his gaze to the so-called officer. "Badge number, please." The man stammered. I work security. Private." Harris stepped closer. "That badge isn't issued by the county." "Hands where I can see 'em." The color drained from the man's face. Within seconds, Harris had the fake badge in his hand. "Plastic laminate," he muttered. "Ma'am, did you hire this individual?" Debbie's confidence collapsed into nervous laughter. I just asked for assistance. He said he was certified." "Certified in what? Pretending?" Harris said flatly. He looked toward Ethan. "Mind if I check your deed, Mr. Walker?" Ethan handed over the papers, folded, old, but official. The deputy nodded. "Filed, stamped, and valid. This property was never annexed by Pine Ridge." Debbie's hands fluttered. "That can't be right. Our maps—" Harris cut her off. "Your maps don't override county law." He gestured toward the fake cop. "This one's coming with me for impersonation of an officer." As the cuffs clicked, a few neighbors emerged from their porches, filming quietly. Debbie tried to wave them off. "Stop recording! This is harassment." Ethan didn't gloat. He simply crossed his arms. Funny how quiet it gets once the truth shows up. The deputy paused before leaving. "Mr. Walker, you keep your footage." "We'll need it for evidence," Ethan nodded once. "Yes, sir." When the cruiser drove away, sirens off, justice done, Debbie stood frozen, her authority unraveling in the dust. Ethan turned back toward his porch, calm as ever. "Next time, ma'am," he said softly, "bring a real map, not a fake badge." Days passed quietly after the deputy drove away. The neighborhood that once whispered now watched Ethan Walker's property with cautious respect. The old cabin, once half buried in weeds, began to look alive again. Fresh lumber leaned against the porch rail, and smoke curled from a new chimney as the evening sun washed everything gold. Word spread fast. The officer Debbie hired was facing charges for impersonation. County investigators confirmed the HOA had no jurisdiction over Ethan's land. Within a week, the Pine Ridge Board held an emergency vote, and Debbie Whitfield was removed as president. Ethan didn't attend the meeting. He didn't need to. He was out front sanding a doorframe his father built decades ago. When the sound of tires approached again, he didn't flinch. Debbie's SUV rolled up slowly. She stepped out without her sunglasses this time, voice small and cracked. "I didn't know," she murmured. "I just wanted order." Ethan set down the sander. "Order doesn't start with intimidation," he said quietly. "You can't build community by taking away someone's home." For the first time, she didn't argue. She simply nodded, eyes wet, and walked back to her car. Ethan watched her drive off. then turned back to the porch. The wind rustled through the pine trees, carrying the faint echo of his father's old laugh, or maybe just the memory of it. Later that night, he screwed a brass nameplate back onto the gate. Walker Family Land, Iesson, 1978. A few neighbors came by the next morning with coffee and offers to help rebuild. One of them, the same man who once filmed from afar, handed Ethan a small American flag. "For your dad," he said simply. Ethan planted it by the fence, the flag catching the sunrise. He smiled. "For Dad," he whispered. The camera panned wide. The restored cabin, the land, the light. A story not of revenge but of respect reclaimed. Narrator: power built on fear always collapses, but the kind built on truth? That lasts. Where are you watching from? If you believe no one should be bullied off their land, hit like, share, and subscribe for more stories where justice finds its way home.